Good afternoon, Minnesotans, and thank you for taking a little time with us. We're heading into the long Labor Day weekend. In any other year but 2020, most of this group, and us included, would be at the state fair doing the things that we love so much. We would be going back to open houses instead of, as I was this morning, online with my son's 8th grade teacher as he goes into 8th grade. But in COVID-19, many things have changed. We're approaching 6 months since Minnesota and the United States took the moves towards emergency action around stopping the spread of COVID-19. We've learned much during that time. We've learned what works. We've learned some things that don't work. We're still continuing to learn, but there are things that we know that we can control that make an impact. Since that day back in March, when we announced the first death at the end of March, Minnesotans now, we've lost 1,837 of our neighbors. We're up to about 80,000 confirmed infections. Life was turned upside down. The things that we watched happen, graduation ceremonies became remote and in the backyard. Weddings were postponed. Visitations to our elderly relatives and friends became much more difficult. And since the beginning of this, we've asked Minnesotans to help us make a difference, to attack this head on, to follow the science, to do it and do what's right for our neighbors, and we have done that. Early in this pandemic, we asked Minnesotans to stay home, to shelter in place so that we could buy a little bit of time to ensure that we had the hospital capacity and the protective equipment, the ventilators, things like that that we needed, so we didn't end up in a situation where we watched coming out of Italy or in New York City. We then moved and we started to see things that we could do, understanding that we weren't going to be able to shelter in place forever and that we had to start figuring out how do we return to some place where folks can go back to work and we can still keep people safe. And we started using the best science to adjust capacities in places like restaurants and bars. And then we asked here just a short time ago, something that we have found over those 6 months that can make a big impact is wearing masks, especially in crowded places and if you're going to be there for an extended period of time. All of those things were meant to slow the spread of the infection, to have us learn more about treatments and therapeutics, and to work us towards a place where vaccines would come online. I said back in March when we had a very unusual state of